It's Wednesday, and you know what that means. We're back live on the Big Mountain.
Welcome back to the Big Mountain. It's Wednesday. Steve is drinking another Red Wave. Thank you again, Sierra Nevada, for our first Dweller Brew, and we have our second one coming. That didn't arrive today. I'm hopeful it arrives for next week's. But something that did arrive for today, new stickers, Steve.
Love them.
We've got the Big Mountain Dweller Brew stickers, as well as the Big Mountain QR code stickers.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, we are stickering it up. So we had a sticker 3-pack. Now we have a sticker 5-pack. If anybody wants a 5-pack of our stickers, we're stocked up. Venmo $5, and we'll send you 5 stickers.
I'm thinking about getting this tattooed on my back, so when I go to the water parks this summer, people can just scan it.
Well, more power to you. If he does it, I'll take a picture, everybody.
Okay.
Don't worry.
All right.
I find that hard to believe. But hey, again, shout out to Sierra Nevada Sam for making the cool Dweller Brew logo. And again, we're hoping we get another one next week from Washington State. The Cougars. Old Crimson. And it's the brew that supports the collective.
If we ever hit 1 million, neither one of us have tattoos. So neither one of us are tattoo people.
No.
But if we ever hit 1 million subscribers, we should get Big Mountain tattoos.
Okay. I'll say yes, because that's never going to happen. And the Red Wave has hit you early, Steve,
Yes,
talking
yes.
about tattoos already. But hey, tonight we're going to talk about the chances of well, not the chances. Are they what is it?
Contender or pretender?
A contender or a pretender. Every big team, whether or not they're a contender for the CFP or a pretender for the CFP. So we're going to start with that.
Every team in the Big Ten.
Every team.
Plus 2 bonus teams.
Ooh.
Clemson and Florida State.
There you go.
And if there's anyone else you want to ask me about when we
Okay.
get through, I'll answer. But
Okay.
those are the ones we're going to
Maybe I'll throw a curveball or two at the
Okay.
end, just because I can. Also, SAC State update. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. Pac-12 update. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. We saw your comments. JEH, he's done with all the speculation. Just stop talking about it. Well, I'm not here to speculate. I'm here to ask your opinion, Steve.
Everyone's just tired of waiting around.
We're tired of waiting around. I'm wearing a Texas State shirt again. Everybody knows. I said a week ago that I was told this week there should be an announcement, and there has not been an announcement yet. But we got 2 more days. We're going to talk about that.
I'm wearing an Indiana Hoosiers
I see that.
shirt. And about a month after I got this and wore it on the show, they announced they're bringing back, I forget what his name is, but they're bringing this guy back as their mascot for this year.
No kidding.
Did a whole video. It was pretty awesome.
I'm going to have to check out that video.
Yeah.
So hello to all the dwellers. We're going to end with just a real brief kind of realignment thing. There's things going on that I want to make sure everybody's aware of. And I had a quick, I'll talk about this a little bit later when we have some more of the Western folk on. But I had a little segment on a Cheyenne, Wyoming radio show here about an hour ago. It was a call-in guest. Talked for about 15 minutes about the Mountain West and the PAC and things like that. A lot of fun. I always enjoy talking about that.
Love it.
So let's go to the Big Ten CFP.
Contenders or pretenders?
Why can't I remember that? Contenders and pretenders. So I'm gonna give you the name of the school.
Yep.
And I'm gonna say, Steve, are they a contender or the pretender?
Love it.
And
Let's
you're
do
gonna
it.
tell us what you think.
Yeah, I love it.
And maybe I'll have an input, and maybe I'll just drink my brews. We're back to drinking brews again.
Maybe you'll laugh and go,
Bah! Okay, that might happen too. So here we go. The very first one, we're going to start. I don't know how you have these ranked, but we're starting with USC. We're going to start with the U's. USC, Steve, are they a contender or a pretender?
So this one, and we might, right out of the gate, we might get some laughter from you.
Don't do it.
I have them as a contender.
Get out of here.
The talent on their roster, we've seen Lincoln Riley, his history with quarterbacks. They have Jada Maeva, who I think is incredibly talented. The roster is loaded. We saw some good improvement last year. They brought in a new defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Did really improved on the defense until they started to have some injuries. They lost a bunch of really close games last year. So anyways, I think with just a little bit improved quarterback play, and honestly, to me, Maeva, I've been looking at some like long shot Heisman Trophy contenders. And he has pretty long odds. You can find him on FanDuel and a couple other places.
I'm on him.
All right, yeah, so I got him as a contender. Now, again, this is we say contender. This doesn't mean they're going to win the national championship. This means that I think if they go through their schedule, they perform where they can be, they can make it to the college football playoff.
Well, you said it right there at the end. Perform where they can be.
Yep.
They can't perform where they can be.
We'll see.
I'll continue to say it. I crapped on them last year. They gave me a little bit of hope, and then they are who I thought they were. Mm-hmm. Let's go to UCLA. Steve, I think we're probably going to know what you're going to say here. Are they a contender or a pretender?
UCLA still pretenders. The Bruins are still pretenders at this point. I do like the trajectory they're on. They really improved last year as the season went on. I think it's just going to take, I think, another year at least, just rebuilding the roster. So I'm going with pretender.
Absolutely. Okay, the next one's going to be interesting. I want to know where you're going to go here. Nebraska, go Big Red. The Cornhuskers, are they going to be a pretender or a contender?
Yeah, so I think the Big Ten gets 4 teams again this year in the college football playoff.
Okay.
And I think Nebraska is going to contend for one of those. So go Big Red. They're going to be a contender.
I figured you would say that.
Dylan Raiola,
I think they could be.
I think he'll take that next step.
Yeah.
We've seen their trajectory. Again, it's one of those things. Everyone laughed at Texas. Is Texas finally back? It's Texas until they were back, and then no one was laughing anymore.
Correct.
And I think Nebraska is on. I mean, they're not quite as big of a behemoth
Yeah.
as Texas, but we're talking about contending for a CFP spot, which means being around that 4th or 5th team in the Big Ten.
Right.
I think they'll contend this year. Dylan Raiola take another step forward. Matt Rule, we've seen his trajectory with teams, and I think they're, again, I don't see them winning a national championship this year, but as far as a CFP spot, I think they're a contender.
Maybe one of the easier ones. I think you have a few fairly easy. The Oregon Ducks, contender, pretender.
Contender.
Yes. I was going to say, what are you thinking about?
The talent they have. I actually think they could take a step back from last year. Mm-hmm. Dylan Gabriel, now that the season's done, people kind of make fun of him. Oh, he didn't have an NFL arm or this or that or whatever. He was great last year. They had so much talent. The wide receivers that they've lost. I think Dante Moore's coming in. We don't know what to expect from him. He was considered kind of like a bust at UCLA. But coming up to Oregon, it's a good spot for him. But I could see him struggling early in the year. So I don't think they're going to have that dominant run. But I think just the talent on this team, Dan Lanning as a coach, you got to keep him in there as a contender.
I want to go back to USC because I did crap on them, but I am a Maeva fan, Maeva, and I hope he does well. And I did put a little sprinkle of money on him, not because he's going to win the Heisman, but as you like to say, get them early, see their value maybe increase, and then cash it out.
Exactly.
That's my goal with him. Yes. Get a couple extra bucks. And JEH already said he gave the answer. I was going to ask the question Atomic Skull asked. Why doesn't anyone run the option anymore? And of course, JEH comes in with the wonderful academies, Navy, Army, and Air Force. That's all Air Force does is run the triple option. They rarely throw the ball.
And I mean, really, it's such a limiting offense. You can't bring in the receivers and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's perfect for the service academies. The guys are smaller in general, not as big, fast athletes, so they can be competitive without getting all those 5-star players.
All right, so we're through 4. Let's go to Washington, a big step back after their push to the finals 2 years ago. What do you have them for this year? I'm sure you're going to say you think that they're better, but are they a contender?
I got them as a contender.
Do you?
I really like their quarterback, and I forgot to write his name down, but he came on late last season. He was playing all through the season, and then he started in the bowl game.
Yeah.
I like this team. Fish, I think, is doing a great job. They surprised me last year, especially as the season went on. They were better than I thought they were going to be. I think they're right back in contender mode right now. I like where this team is at. I think they did a much quicker turnaround than anybody expected, so I got them as a contender.
I'm surprised. Okay. Yeah. Wisconsin.
Total pretender.
Pretender.
Yeah.
All right.
Total pretender. And honestly, I'm a little worried for Luke Fickell's job this year.
Yes. This is probably make or break, I would assume.
I think they got to have a winning season and get to a bowl probably for him. And honestly, I think they might be better as a team, but have an even worse record than last year because they have a terrible, horribly hard schedule.
Okay, all right. Another maybe easy one, Northwestern.
Yeah, they're a pretender.
Yeah.
They had their kind of one shining star season a couple of seasons back, and they'll have that every now and then. They're going to struggle in the Big Ten. It is another season they're playing in that the field hockey stadium or whatever next to the lake, which is cool. And I think they're playing a game in Wrigley Field this year as well.
Oh, okay.
Maybe against Notre Dame.
Right.
So, again, not trying to crap on them, but for right now, just the talent. They're going to have to rebuild that talent level until they're a contender. So for this year, still a pretender.
Well, I know you're big on this next team. I'm pretty sure what you're going to say about Illinois. Are they a contender or a pretender?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I don't think a lot of people realize how good of a season Illinois had last year.
Yeah.
If we had been in an expanded playoff, they probably would have made it. They were just outside. So they almost contended last year. I definitely have them as a contender this year.
Sure.
Indiana got that 4th spot for the Big Ten. But Illinois had a fantastic season as well. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people think, those kind of teams like only Illinois can be good or Indiana or like Northwestern have a good season. Well, last year the world was wide enough for both of them to be really, really good.
Yeah.
Illinois just barely, just a little bit trailing. I got them as a contender this year, not only for the CFP, JY.
Yeah.
I have them going potentially to the Big Ten championship game and being a contender to win the Big Ten.
Ooh, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, Iowa, the Hawkeyes, are they a contender?
So you may be surprised by this one.
Please don't say they are.
I got them as a contender.
How many contenders are you going to have?
The thing is in the Big Ten, there's really uneven schedules with having 18 teams. Just like last year, how I pointed out some teams that remember at the beginning of the year, when you look at their schedule, just easier than others.
Yes.
I was right there. I think that they have a schedule that's very favorable to them. I could see them winning 9 or 10. I could see them getting to 10 games if they really kind of get a little bit more improvement on the offensive side. Defense is usually really awesome. Last year they took a step back on defense.
Yeah.
I expect them to be better this year on defense and on offense. An easier schedule. I could see them getting to 10, being the worst 10-2 team in the country kind of thing, or than the P4.
Okay.
So I have them as a contender. I think they could get in mostly based on their schedule.
I'm going to go back up to Wisconsin quick. DJ, one of our great dwellers, says Luke F. is out before the season ends.
Yeah, could be. Wisconsin isn't one of those. I don't know. They're not one of those kind of programs that I think he's real respected. I think he's done probably this year unless a miracle happens. Right. I'm not with him that it would be before the season ends.
Okay.
Just because of the way Wisconsin runs their program and the way he's very respected in that community.
Because Steve can't type out Minnesota. We've got Minnie next.
Yes, yeah.
Not to be confused with Mickey.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Well, I don't know. I think I said I'm pretty sure on this a couple times. But I don't think you got them as a contender.
So this was one of my more difficult ones.
Steve.
Yeah, I think, again, they were a lot better last year than either of us thought they were going to be. They played pretty darn well. And again, when we're talking about a contender here for a CFP spot, it's can you be like the 4th or 5th best team in the Big Ten? I think they're just a little bit out of there. But I think they'll be pretty good this year. I'm not down on them. I'm high on them. I think they're just out of that contender range. So I'm going to call them a pretender, but they could mess up some people's seasons, just like they did last year.
They're an overachieving pretender.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michigan State, kind of a rebuild, new coach last year. Sorry, JEH. New Aiden Childs quarterbacks, looking like he could be a pretty darn good quarterback, but I'm not sure if they're there yet. What do you think?
I think still a pretender. I think they could be a lot better than last year, especially if Aiden Childs takes some steps forward. Mm-hmm. Really talented guy. He made a lot of mistakes last year, turnovers, had some problems.
Yep.
I think the trajectory they're on, again, sorry, JEH, I think they're on a good trajectory.
Yeah.
But they're still, I think, another year out. Maybe next year. I could see them maybe moving up just on the edge of that contender, but for right now, still a major pretender.
Yep. All right, well, let's go to Michigan. Scandal's still a hot topic for this team. Are they a pretender or a contender?
Again, this might be another one that surprises you. I have them as a pretender this year.
That doesn't surprise me.
Okay,
I thought you might.
Yeah. They were still a really good team last year. They had a really good defense.
Yep.
They just had no quarterback, really bad quarterback play. The problem is I think they have the opportunity to have some better quarterback play. They brought in Mikey Keene. They're bringing Bryce Underwood, like the #1 recruit in the nation. So I like that, the combination of let's bring in an experienced guy that's taken a lot of snaps, and let's bring in a really talented guy who has no experience whatsoever, but could be like the next Cam Newton, in college football level.
Yeah.
I think they will be better at quarterback, but I think they have their receivers are just not very good. I think their defense is going to take multiple steps back.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think just kind of the turmoil we've already seen. Sherrone Moore has tried to like self suspend himself. So he's going to be missing some games. They're kind of in turmoil. There might be more before the season starts. So I have them taking an even bigger step back than last year, and I have them as a pretender this year.
Okay. I'm not surprised. We have a super chat. Somebody giving a shout out to your shirt.
Yeah.
The Hoosiers. Ricky Tungate. Thanks for the super chat. And Steve doing the throwback to, that's a home field shirt, right?
Yes, home field shirt. I'm going to take your lead and try and do some more Big Ten shirts this year. I had a Golden Gopher shirt out recently.
That's right, yeah.
Got the Hoosier shirt out.
The squirrel.
Yeah, I got some more surprises in mind. So if you're a Big Ten fan, see what I'm wearing. Okay, Atomic Skull says, how can you not have a quarterback at UM?
That's a great question. I what the heck?
Part of it was Jim Harbaugh. He basically, it was like his little collection of quarterbacks, and then he had his really, really good one, and then he left and ran away and left the cover to Little Bear.
Well, again, appreciate you, Ricky, for that super chat. And I see JEH, a couple of people shouting out my shirt as well. This was a gift from my visit down to San Marcos and Texas State, and I was given a couple. I wore one a couple weeks ago, and this might be my favorite because I like the color sets here.
Yeah.
The gold and the
It's
and the maroon.
similar to Commanders.
It is, yeah. I got 4 actually, so I'm on 2 of 4. I'm gonna have to slow play it though.
I love it
because when we start getting into the Mountain West stuff, the previews and everything, I got to go back to all my throwback.
Yes.
Mountain West garb, and I'm hoping to up my game a little bit again this year. Maybe we'll get some good garb at the media days. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Before we move on, I know we're about maybe 2/3 of the way through. Yeah. We have a poll.
Okay.
And you mentioned this. I'm going to ask our producer to throw up a poll. And the poll is, how many teams from the Big Ten are going to make it into the CFP? So we'll see what our dwellers have to say. How many Big Ten teams? You said 4 or 5 earlier, Steve. So that's what he thinks.
I think 4, yeah.
4. All right, so we're going to have a poll up there for a little bit. We'll go through some more teams, and then we'll see what our dwellers have to say about that. All right, so we're down to the Ohio State University Buckeyes. Are they a pretender?
Absolutely a contender. I mean, they're just every year. The way their roster, the amount of talent on that roster, they don't rebuild, they reload. An old cliche.
Yeah.
It really, they have a new quarterback coming in, Julian Sayin, who was really highly touted. Went to Alabama first, transferred there. Kind of a smaller guy, but great athlete. Really highly recruited and rated. A lot of it, I think, is going to depend on, and Jeremiah Smith, probably the best player in the country, and their defense will be good again. Yeah. And
talk about receivers.
Oh gosh,
holy crap! Really. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, you got Jeremiah Smith, who's probably the best player in the country. Could end up being like one of the greatest receivers of all time. Yeah. Especially at the college level. And they got like 4 or 5 other 5-star receivers on that roster. So they're just absolutely loaded. I think a lot of it depends. They're definitely a contender, but whether or not they contend for a national championship or just a playoff spot in Big Ten championship, I think is going to depend on Julian Sayin, how fast he gets up to speed and gets everything going, cranking.
Okay, so let's go to Purdue, the bottom dweller of the Big Ten last year. You thought one of the worst FBS teams last year.
Yeah.
They bring in a new coach, Barry Odom from UNLV, bringing some players with him. New coach. They already were a crap show to begin with. Where are we at with Purdue?
So they're an interesting situation, and I looked at them. I've been looking at them all summer.
Yeah.
In some ways, I look at them and I think, could they be Indiana from last year? I don't really think so. They're not quite there. They brought in some good transfer players, but not exactly what Coach Shiraka did last year in Indiana.
Yeah.
I think they're on a good trajectory back to, they were.
Signetti.
Or Coach Signetti, yes. Sorry.
I was going to let it slide, but I can't. He's my boy.
Yeah. Sorry.
I took your thought, and then I made you sneeze.
Yeah. I felt a sneeze coming on, and it messed with my.
Well, I blame myself.
Yeah, so they're not quite. I don't think they're going to do what Coach Signetti did at Indiana with the Hoosiers, but I think they are on a good trajectory. So I'm going to call them easily a pretender.
Yeah.
However, I think they're going to improve a lot this year, and we may see maybe next year, maybe the year after, get into contender status.
Well, you mentioned Indiana. Maybe you did that on purpose, but they're the next one on your list, and not a surprise for you, but a surprise for people that don't know what they're talking about. You know what you're talking about. Where do you think they're going to be at this year?
Definite contender.
Okay.
I think, it's going to be a little more difficult this year. They're not going to catch everyone napping. They do have, again, a favorable schedule.
Yep.
We'll see how their quarterback position plays out.
Yep.
I see this team winning 9 games this year.
Okay.
Maybe not getting to 10. I think 10 was a bit of a surprise last year. But I could see them winning 9 games this year, which, again, I think would make them a contender, at least to be on the fringe of getting another playoff spot.
Okay.
And again, I see both Illinois and Indiana continuing that success.
Okay.
I think the two teams may just swap places this year, where we saw Illinois was kind of the first team out last year. That might be Indiana this year.
Okay. All right. Make sure you get your votes in. We have 20 right now. We'll keep it up for another couple minutes. How many teams will the Big have in the CFP this fall? All right. You're Nittany Lions. We are.
Yeah, Penn State.
What are we doing?
Yeah, I think obviously definite contender. There's some services I was a little surprised that have them ranked number 1 overall in the country.
No crap.
Summer. Yeah. Definitely contender. Their season is going to come down to 2 big games, just like always. Oregon and Ohio State. They host Oregon in the whiteout September 27th, and then later on in the season they'll go on the road to Ohio State. Those will be 2 big tests. I see them even losing those 2 games, they're at 10 wins, which will get them into the playoff. I could see them splitting those games. And so I've got them as a definite contender, and honestly having a similar season to what we saw last year is my expectation. They're bringing a lot back. Offensive line is back, 2 top running backs back. They brought in 3 wide receivers in the transfer portal, which was their big weakness last year. So definite contender.
Okay. Let's go to Rutgers, the Scarlet Knights, who won me some money rare at the very, very end last year. Good middle of the road team. Do you think they're a contender?
I still have them as a pretender.
Yeah.
I think they're just outside. I think they're going to be behind that group of Illinois, Indiana. Who was another team I surprised you with there?
Let me think.
Nebraska,
Washington,
Iowa. Iowa.
Washington and Iowa. You're surprised.
I think they'll be behind that group who are actual contenders. So I'm going to solidly in the pretender. But again, I think they could have a decent season like last year.
Yeah.
I think Greg Schiano, that's just his brand, his style. Play good defense. Run the ball. I think actually they're bringing in a different quarterback who I think they might be able to throw the ball pretty well this year. We'll see. So I have them as a pretender, but I could see them having a winning season, getting to a bowl, but not being a contender for a CFP spot.
All right. The last Big Ten team before we get to a few honorable mention teams. Maryland, a team you said was going to stink last year. They pretty much stank. Are they going to continue to stink?
They're going to stink even worse this year.
Holy cow.
Definite.
I can smell them from here.
Yeah, definite pretender. Honestly, I think I have them in Wisconsin as like teams where you almost have to worry about them not winning a Big Ten game.
Yeah,
maybe
that's bad.
Winning 1 or 2. I think it's going to be bad this year. Maryland's going to stink a little bit more. And just total pretender. It's going to be interesting to see as we move forward. Are they going to make those real investments in football? They're kind of more of a basketball school.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. And I think they're just going to be, they get a few players every year, every now and then. If they get a really good player, they can have a good season and maybe look like a contender. But for now, I have them solidly in the pretender column.
All right. Well, before we get to the other ones, we'll close the poll. Steve, you gave us 9 contenders.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yes.
That's a lot.
Yeah, 9 for 4, which what I think is 4 spots. I think that's.
I thought you'd be a little more. I thought you'd be a little more harsh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for 4, we'll see. Everybody else says. Oh, 3 is the top choice. 50% say 3. 33% say 4. They agree with you. So over 80% are at 3 or 4. And then a few Big Ten haters at 2.
Yeah.
2 would be unbelievable if that came to fruition. But thank you guys for the poll. We have 2 more polls later on. We like to, kind of keep it engaging here with obviously reading the chats, but having you guys give us some of your feedback via polls. So we'll have a few more polls later on.
Rumble asked about Michigan State, where yes, I had them as a pretender. Still for this year, I think they're on a good trajectory, but for this year, still a pretender.
Okay, so let's go to some of your, at least for now, not Big Ten schools. We'll start with Clemson, the Tigers. They got a really good quarterback coming back. Are they a contender or a pretender?
You spell Clemson with a capital C, and we're going to make them a capital C contender.
All right.
I think they're a national championship contender.
Ooh.
They've been kind of getting crapped on the last few years. They didn't participate real well in the NIL stuff and the portal and all that. But they put some good high school classes together. I love Cade. Was it Klubnik?
Klubnik.
Yeah,
Whatever.
Coming back. Great quarterback. Great college quarterback.
Yeah.
I think he'll do really well there. They're in the ACC. I mean, they have an easier path than if they were in the Big Ten or SEC. I could see them getting, not only being a contender, getting a CFP, being a contender for number 1 overall seed kind of thing.
Okay.
I could see them possibly going undefeated this year. I think they have an early matchup, if I remember correctly, with LSU. Which I think will tell us more about their national ambitions. I think they could lose that and still run the table in the ACC.
Okay, all right. Maybe an interesting one. Went from a great season just out of the CFP, really pissed off. They coming into last season, they wanted to set the world on fire and cut people's heads off, and I'm not sure they got out of bed. So Florida State, I don't know what you're going to say about this team. I don't think Florida State fans know what to think about this team. So where are we at? Are they a contender?
Yeah, Florida State fans, I'm sure, are on tilt because two
crazy.
years ago was just amazing, but then they had that bitter disappointment of how the end of the season happened. And then last year they came in with such high hopes and it just, got dashed right away. And they never could get things together. I'm going to call them a contender. Mostly because they're in the ACC. If they were in the Big Ten or the SEC, I think they would have, they'd be a middle of the pack kind of team fighting at the fringes. The ACC, I think, is just an easier path. I think Miami might take a step back this year. We'll see about SMU. I'm not sure about SMU. We'll see about Louisville. I think Louisville could be pretty good there, bringing in Miller Moss. We'll see. But I think the Florida State, if they can just be just a little bit better than last year, put some things together, they could compete for that kind of second place in the ACC. And I think if you get second in the ACC, you will be in the playoffs. So I'm making them a contender. Mostly I think they'll be improved from last year, and it might just be enough to get them get that second ACC spot.
All right, I'm going to give you one more.
Okay.
Because I'm going to make you talk about them.
I love it.
I know what you're going to say.
Okay.
But I still want to make you talk about it.
Okay.
Notre Dame!
Oh, contender.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, they're going to be really good again this year.
You think they're going to be as good?
I think their offensive line will still be good. The defense was so good last year.
Yeah.
Their defensive coordinator, Penn State alum, he left for the NFL, and they lost some players. So defense might not be as good as last year, but their offense should be good. What's his name? Love, the running back last year, was great. They brought in some other running backs. I think they have one of the better backfields in the country. I think they'll have a good offensive line again. It doesn't even really matter what kind of quarterback play, because with their schedule and the defense that they have, the running game, the offensive line, they're definitely a contender. They'll almost certainly be, unless they totally implode, they'll almost certainly be in the CFP.
A couple quick comments, then we're going to move to, what do we got next? Sacramento State, yeah. So JEH says he's already over Childs.
Yeah.
Forget him. Because they have Malik.
Yeah.
So why are we talking about Childs? Who cares anymore? And then I have to give, I'm going to give a clap to JEH because he was one of the ones that voted or selected 2 on the poll because he hates the P2. And for that, I being the G6 guy, will be clapping for JEH. Thank you for that.
I almost said that it was probably him because he hates Michigan State so bad. Okay. It was in the Big Ten and just screwed the Big Ten.
Yeah, well, just screw the Big Ten.
I agree with him, though. I really do like Malik Murphy.
Yeah.
I liked him at Texas. He was great for Duke last year. He's a very solid pickup for them at quarterback. I don't know what the rest of their team is going to. I don't know enough about the rest of their team. But Malik Murphy, I mean, that to me could end up being the best transfer portal quarterback pickup of the season. We'll see Mateer going down to Oklahoma. That has a chance to turn out real well.
Yeah.
Malik Murphy, serious talent.
We've got, Artie Cat, if I'm saying that. Yeah, Artie Cat from San Marcos, and he's here. He's with us from San Marcos.
Yeah.
Welcome aboard, sir. That's a new name. I don't remember that name to the channel. And I didn't do a shout-out. I'm not going to do a shout-out tonight. We got a lot of great people. We got Paul from San Jose in here. A lot of our normal dwellers are here. And then I see some new names, so that's fantastic.
Well, Artie Cat, I think he asked what G5 school will beat Notre Dame this year. If I remember correctly, Boise plays Notre Dame.
They do.
And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. I'm not saying I'm picking them, but if we came to that week and Boise upset Notre Dame, I would not be surprised. I don't think anybody would be surprised. It's just that just happens to Notre Dame all the time, and Boise is just one of those teams that they do that kind of thing.
And then DJ says that, and he plays BSU.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yep.
All right, let's move to a quick Sac State update. Steve, I didn't tell you I did a standalone episode really quick beforehand. It'll come out tomorrow, so I'm not going to go over everything. The thing I want to talk about, I want to get your opinion on kind of the news of the week. And that is on Monday, the FBS, or the Football Oversight Committee, told the D1 or recommended to the D1 Council to deny
the
waiver request by Sac State. I want to get your opinion on that. What are your thoughts?
Overall, pretty much bullshit. Their reasoning, I read their reasoning, and they said, yes, we've done this in the past, but it was a different time and a different competitive situation, blah, 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 which I thought was a bunch of BS word salad.
Yeah.
We've talked about Liberty before. Liberty was able to get this exemption. They're always kind of treated special, kind of like Notre Dame, but like they're
like the G6 Notre Dame.
Yeah, exactly. I think honestly just kind of crap. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with their reasoning, but at the same time, I don't necessarily agree with how that process works at all. And I really wonder, with the governance changes coming up, if it will end up being basically a moot point, because some of the and I don't know if it's just wishful thinking from me, but some of the things I'm seeing and I'm reading, I almost think when the governance changes, there could be a reset where they allow schools to kind of reorder themselves or reorganize themselves by what level of financial commitment they want to make, where they want to, where they want to be, and so we'll see if that happens. We'll see if it even matters. Now, I will say, and both of us, we're big fans of the Wood brothers out there. Mm-hmm. Dr. Wood, the president of the university, and what's the other? Josh Wood. We've had him on the show, and I think they're doing great things. It's possible that their approach. We talked about the difference before between them and Tarleton State.
Absolutely, yeah.
Tarleton State has taken that conservative approach that the what everyone has done in the past, just kind of build up, stay quiet until the moment is right.
Sure.
Not make any waves, not piss anybody off.
Right.
Where Sac State has gone we're doing the opposite.
Yeah.
We want everybody to know that we're ready to move up. We're making these investments. We want the publicity, and it's helped them in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Raise money. It's helped them in recruiting and all kinds of different ways. Yeah. But I really wonder. I think it's a stupid requirement just in general. you basically have to be invited to one of these clubs.
Yeah.
And the other people from the other clubs don't like them because they're just too out there right now.
Right.
So I think they're getting kind of railroaded. I wonder if it's going to matter. I'm really interested to see the governance changes, and maybe there's a path for them anyways.
Well, and the funny thing is the potentially the governance changes, the vote and approval or whatever's going to happen are on Monday.
Yeah.
The D1 council that's going to hear this is on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah.
Does that play a factor or not? I don't know, but the timing is interesting. That there's no doubt about that. I know Immaculate would be like, look at the timing of this stuff. So I have to say that. The other thing I would say is, and I said this on X, and I say this on the episode that'll come out tomorrow. I think the big thing that Dr. Wood, President Wood, put out a statement today, and so basically what the oversight committee said was you didn't meet the requirement of having a conference, and you didn't give us any reasons why you couldn't do that. Yeah. And I don't know. I didn't see the application. I don't know what they did or didn't do. And so maybe they did. I don't know. I agree with you. I think they're really just hanging their hat on. You need a conference. Like we're not going to do this without you having a conference. My question to you is, and what I brought up was, it's different for Pacific and Mountain time zone.
There's less conferences.
There's
less
two
opportunities.
exactly. The effect of having less opportunities. There's two conferences that would invite them right now. Yeah. It's the PAC and the Mountain West.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Conference USA is not going to the West Coast for one school. They're not going to do it.
Right.
The Sun Belt sure is. They don't even want to be in Texas anymore. Yeah. They're sure as heck not going to do it. The AAC's not interested. The MAC sure as heck isn't interested. They have two conferences versus somebody that's in Tennessee, for example, a Western Kentucky and a Middle Tennessee, and they got 5 opportunities or 6 opportunities. Like, it's a totally different situation. So those are and Dr. Wood mentioned that in his write-up today. I think there's certainly extenuating circumstances. And I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's the thing, and that's why I said it's pretty much bullshit. Yeah. Because they're putting criteria on them.
You did say that pretty early.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is beyond their control.
Right.
The one thing holding them back is they don't have a conference invite.
Right.
Well, there's only 1 or 2 conferences out of 20-something or whatever that could invite them, and they just didn't get an invite. That, it's beyond their control.
Yep.
And to me, it should be more about what are they doing? What are the investments that they've already made in the program, and what investments are they willing to make going forward?
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful that either maybe they get a waiver, or that with the governance changes that something changes to that process, because they're basically screwed by their geography.
Yeah.
If they were in the state of Alabama or Kentucky or Virginia or Florida, they'd have a bunch of options. They have very limited options, and if they don't get an invite to the Cool Kids Club,
right,
why is that their fault? It's circumstances beyond their control.
Yeah. So we have another poll about Sac State here, and this is about the waiver. I would love to hear from our dwellers whether or not you believe Sac State's waiver will be approved by the D1 Council. Yes or no? Yes, it's going to be approved. No, it's not going to be approved. Will they receive the waiver? It's a yes or no vote.
I'm going to be hopeful that it's yes, but the history says no. Whenever the committee doesn't recommend it, the D1 Council.
Well, we'll leave that up for a little bit. I do want to just mention that they're like, okay, that didn't work, but guess what? We're still moving forward, and it came out today. No surprise to us. We've been talking about Sac State. We've been talking about the Big West. I did 3 or 4 standalone episodes about the Big West. We had Commissioner Butterly on the channel. We talked to him. It was clear there were ads coming. I kind of knew UVU and Sac State were pretty much the two they were probably going to go after. And sure enough, here we go. UVU happened a week or 2 ago. Talked with Jared Sumption, the AD, last week. Sac State now, they're moving everything but football to the Big West, Steve.
Yeah. And a part of me was wondering, if they could have done this a year ago when they really started on this process, would they be in a better spot? Because they could say, like, hey, we moved to a conference, it doesn't have football.
Sure.
And none of the conferences that have football are inviting us.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to see. I think that it's a great move for them for the rest of their sports. I'm really interested in seeing what kind of independent football schedule they can put together.
Yeah.
I have a feeling with the schools out there, with the different PAC and Mountain West schools, even though they didn't get an invite to the conference,
yeah.
I have a feeling they can put together a pretty awesome schedule and show that, like, hey, we're doing everything. We're investing. We're playing against these other FBS schools. There's nothing else we can do.
Yep.
The mitigating circumstances are we're on the West Coast, and there's only 2 conferences, and neither one of us is given an invite.
We have to travel east.
Yeah.
We can't travel west.
Right.
So I agree with you. I think the scheduling piece, I mean, we've heard that, I know for a fact, they've already had conversations with conferences for scheduling agreements with conferences. Scheduling the games is not going to be an issue for Sacramento State.
Yeah.
So the only holdup right now, to your point, is getting this waiver. And, you know, personally, I'm with you. Let's close the poll. I'm with you, Steve. I don't think they're going to get it. I think it'll go through the process. The committee said to deny. I think it's going to be denied. However, I think maybe really shortly thereafter, things could happen where they're able to maybe do some moving that today, as we sit, they can't do.
I'll be honest with you. I don't like the trend. We kind of pointed this out before, and now we're seeing it happen. I don't like this. What I think is now a trend of the FBS schools basically trying to limit schools coming up.
Yeah.
I don't like that at all.
Yep.
I think it's well, you know, we always talk about antitrust and stuff, and the NCAA is a voluntary organization, you know, and I get it, but it's anti-competitive. It's basically locking people into what they were, you know, 20 years ago instead of what they want to be in the next 20 years. So I hope that we see that trend reverse, but it's starting to be a trend to me. The top schools trying to keep people out of the club, basically.
Yeah, it's yes, I agree with you. We got Go Big Red in the house. We talked about Big Red earlier. You had them as a contender,
definite contender
for the CFP. So I got to bring that up. JEH is with you. Sac State got screwed. Steve, salty language alert. Oh, an 8-year-old's on. Sorry, Jerry. Steve, clean it up. This is a PG-13 show.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, extraordinary circumstances call for extraordinary.
100%. So what else do we got? Sac State or Tarleton State to the Mountain West. It's a no-brainer. If they go for one, it's Tarleton State. I know that to be, well, I can't say I know that to be a fact. Pretty darn confident it would be Tarleton State. Because, you know, the Mountain West has UC Davis.
Yeah.
And the reason why I was pretty confident the Big West was going to go after Sacramento State was because they lost UC Davis in Sacramento. It's literally we lose one, we put the other one in. It's same spot. And Butterly talked about the geographic location. Yeah, they're not the big California anymore, but they're still darn close to it.
if I'm the Mountain West, I still invite them. And you know, and I'm not trying to second guess Gloria because she's done a fantastic job.
Sure.
And Gloria we trust.
And Gloria we trust.
Yeah. But I would still invite them. I think so. You can make the comparison between New Mexico State, and then UC Davis and Sacramento. I think it makes a lot more sense because of New Mexico is just such a small, limited market.
Yeah.
I think Sac State would still bring a lot to the Mountain West, but I understand if they're looking at other FCS schools. I understand that Sac State's not on the top of their list.
Sure.
But for me, I would still highly consider them.
So, real quick, I was on a Cheyenne, Wyoming radio station here about an hour and a half ago, almost 2 hours ago now. KFBC, Keith there, who runs the afternoon sports radio show. He's on 97.5 FM and 1240 AM. He had me come on. We had a great conversation about the Mountain West, about PAC, and we even got into like what's going to happen with governance and all that at the end. So always enjoy talking about the Mountain West. So shout out to Keith for having me on. It was a great time. If we have anybody on, I know he gave a shout out to our show tonight when we were on. If we have anybody that heard that, please say hello. If you're new to the channel, would love to say hi. I know we have over 100 people watching live right now, which is fantastic. And what does this say? Both New Mexico schools always have pretty good basketball. UTEP is pretty good too. Yeah. Agree. So yeah, if you're new to the channel and you heard my little segment on KFBC in Cheyenne, that's awesome and welcome to the Big Mountain. So I just had to throw that in there. All right, let's go to the Pac-12. Pac-12, I know JEH said early on, I'm tired of the speculation, and I'm not here to speculate, but I am here to talk about where we are today, which quite frankly is the same place that we were 6 months ago. We've got no news, literally no news. And I know, and I'm going to own it. I said I said last week that today we would have an announcement on an addition. We still have 2 days left. It could come on Friday. I don't know if it is or it isn't. But Steve, here's where we're at. Again, no news, and this is not JY crap. I always feel like I got to preface my comments when I'm going to be a little bit negative about the PAC. I'm not crapping on them. So stop with that. So we have no news. Ross Dellinger last Monday said that we should have a media package announcement in the coming days. That's from Ross Dellinger, one of the most trusted, at least for TBM, most trusted reporters that you can possibly have.
Yes.
Coming days to me is less than a week. Yeah. Otherwise, he would have said coming weeks.
Right.
So that hasn't happened.
Right.
Okay, I don't know why. It just hasn't happened.
Yep.
And then, as I said, I talked about dropping this week an announcement of an addition, at least one addition. We now find out, and I'm going to get to this a little bit later in the realignment section, that apparently the Sun Belt Conference is actively looking for members. Well, where's Texas State right now, Steve? Mm-hmm. They're in the Sun Belt Conference.
Yes.
Holy cow. Yep. What is going on?
Yep.
And then the other thing I just want to point out here, I don't know if you saw this, Canzano put out a tweet today that said there will be no news coming out in the next no PAC news in the next 24 to 48 hours. That was like his tweet. It was basically telling all PAC fans to calm down and be quiet and just live with it for another 48 hours. That's the way I took it. Why would you put that out there? So again, I'm not trying to crap on it, but what in the world is going on right now?
And if I remember, I think it was Pete Thamel had some tweets on Sunday,
late Sunday night. He did a whole write up, Hicker, so got everybody all worked up.
So I have two thoughts, kind of short term, long term.
Okay, short term,
everything looks like there's deals imminent. They're going to announce, Texas State and I don't know, maybe someone else,
right?
And they're going to announce the media deal. Like, all of that feels very imminent. It's just maybe not right now, which, honestly, if they end up announcing it Thursday, Friday, or even next Monday, it's no big deal. Like, okay, we had to cross the T's, dot the I's. So that's kind of my short-term thing. That it just feels like something is imminent, and as long as it comes out soon, it's not the end of the world. My kind of big picture or long-term is we've gone so long. Like, there's nothing for PAC fans right now to, get excited about. They're not doing anything to build momentum, positive publicity. They keep saying, we want to be the fifth best conference. We want to be right there. We know we're not part of the A4 anymore, but we want to be the best of the rest kind of thing. Well, they need some positive momentum. They need some interest in the conference. They need to get their membership locked down and announced. They need to get this media deal locked in and announced. We're in that season now where, we saw the SEC announce all their stuff. We saw the Big Ten, last month. That's the season we're in to get everybody, okay, when are the games? Who's going to be in the conference? When are they going to be on TV? That's the kind of momentum you need to be building right now, and it's just been dead silence. So long-term, big picture, it's what are we doing? We're just spinning our wheels, slow walking, sandbagging, and it makes people JH. He's like, I'm just tired of it. I'm tired. It wears on.
That's
people.
Not good for your fan base.
Instead of being excited, it's just oh God, I'm just sick of it.
Yeah, and JEH says it. I think of somebody else. Surf City Bill, welcome back, Surf City. He says it to the mediation or arbitration, and I've heard different things. One is they're waiting for the mediation. Maybe. Maybe it is. Maybe they are. But how long are we going to wait on the mediation? And the addition, the member, I can understand it somewhat for the media package. You don't want to put a number out there when you're. I get that.
Yeah.
But everybody knows you need another member.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a secret.
Right.
The addition of the new member that supposedly adds no new value to the PAC deal, the media deal.
Right.
Why are we not announcing who your 8th member is? Like, if I'm Texas State, and I adamantly believe it's going to be Texas State, our dwellers know that for months.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, what are you waiting for, man? Like, why are you, what are we doing right now? And so I don't get that. So that's one thing, mediation. Another thing I've heard is they want to do everything at one time. Mm-hmm. They want to be able to do whatever, whether that's all the ads at one time. Mm-hmm. So maybe they have one and they're waiting on another. And for whatever reason, there's a holdup. So they're not going to do one and then wait and do another, and they want to do them at the same time. Maybe they want to do it with the package and do literally, here's our package, here's our new members, bam, and just blast everybody with one big, massive announcement. That could be a thing. In my opinion, I'm with you, and I thought I could starting to see some buildup early in this month. The PAC themselves on X they were getting a little more engaging, not just with the Beavs baseball, which is pretty much all they've been tweeting about, but other things. Like they put that out about, they really grasped onto that A5 thing, and they put out that, there's charts, they used the SEC propaganda, and they talked about how they're really better than some of the P4s right now, and I'm not going to judge that, but I'm like, oh, here we go. Here we go. They're getting the train moving here. We're getting go, and now we're 3 weeks later, and it's freaking crickets again. And I'm with you. And I want to give a shout out to our good friend Bill, that college football guy, because he said this from the beginning, and he was dead straight. And it's what you're saying. It should be a crescendo to big, massive announcements. And I felt like we had a crescendo starting, and now we dropped off to nothing again. Yes. And they could have built so much out of this and gotten so much good PR. And maybe they're still going to do it, but my gosh, it's June 18th. I just don't know what we're doing.
And like I said, if it ends up being like, okay, in the next 7 days, all of that happens and everything is good, it won't matter.
It won't.
But the longer this drives on, the worse it is for them. And you don't want to get any closer to the season. Once you get to media days, and into camps,
it's lost.
And you already want to be, cruising at altitude at that point. So
the additions to me mean absolutely nothing to the mediation, in my opinion. The media package, okay, I can kind of understand that, but the additions, I like Surf City Bill. He says, where was this at? I have to laugh. Canzano says nothing for the next 24 to 48 hours. That means we'll hear something tomorrow. Well, that is, if it's in the afternoon, that is after 24 hours. So he's not necessarily wrong. Because I think he put that I think it was like noon Pacific today, I think is when maybe he went, I don't know, I don't look at the exact times. Somebody sent it to me, and I'm just like, oh, that's interesting. Anyway, if all I'm going to say here, and I'm not going down speculate. I guess I did just speculate why they're not saying anything.
Well, you gave a bunch of,
but that's different than speculation on what's the media package going to be, how much are they going to get, who are the additions going to be. Okay, apparently people I see Feinbaum, multiple people putting out. I guess he went off the frickin' handle today, which is typical. And SEC Glazer, SEC Homer. I was going to say homo. Homer, all of that, 100% accurate. I don't even think I'm going to go listen to it. I don't know if I'll honestly get anything. Apparently, he trashed him as I don't know. I don't even want to know. You don't have to put it in.
The thing about Paul Feinbaum, he knows his audience. His audience is Bubba and Billy Ray from the backwoods Alabama and whatever. Uh-huh. And
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he knows how to trash the other conferences and get them all. Oh yeah, what do those boys from the West Coast know about football? Okay. That's just what he does. That's his shtick, and he gets the radio callers in. I wouldn't be worried about anything Paul Feinbaum is saying about any other conference outside of the SEC.
Shout out to Ryan. I believe he's one of my good follows on X. He says the tweet was at 10:58 Eastern this morning.
All right.
So noon tomorrow, is that? It could still happen. I'm not saying it. Actually, I shouldn't even say stuff like that because I'll get people saying that I said it was noon on Thursday. I'm not saying that at all.
Go Big Red says Feinbaum is a complete tool. That's accurate.
He probably would agree.
Yeah.
But you know what? He's doing what he's paid to do.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, let's be honest. All right. Let's go to the last one here. What kind of tool is he, Steve? Is he a wrench? Is he a hammer? Never mind.
Yeah.
I could go down a dangerous path. Okay, last thing, and I have a poll for this. I want to go just a smidgen further into that.
He's an enhancement pump.
Steve. Oh, that's a tool? Okay. I guess for some people.
Yeah. You gotta blow up those bike tires.
I know nothing. What?
You gotta blow up those bike tires.
Okay. Realignment. I want to go a little bit further into the Sun Belt that we talked about earlier. And let's throw up our last poll. So the last poll here, and we'll talk about this while we're polling our dwellers. So it has to do with who do we think, I'm assuming Texas State, I know, crazy assumption here. Texas State's going to go to the Pac-12, right? I'm going to assume that's what's happening. And so the Sun Belt Conference is going to backfill for Texas State. The Sun Belt wants out of Texas. I was told that 3 weeks ago. Yes, okay, I didn't put it out there. And yes, I know Thamel said it first. Fine, whatever. Thamel said it then. I didn't say it. But they don't want to be in Texas anymore. And I was told Louisiana Tech was kind of what they were looking at. And I've seen a lot of people like, yeah, no, they hate there's no way the other Louisianas would let them in, and they hate. And I'm like, well, hate is good. That builds rivalries. But anyway, so I have my list here. Apparently today, Steve, ECU, this kind of came out of nowhere. ECU apparently was, the Sun Belt went to ECU and asked them if they were interested. Now, ECU's in the American.
Yeah.
That's a significant pay drop.
Yeah, I can't.
And ECU apparently was like, we're going to let things play out a little bit. Which pretty much is like, yeah, no thanks, without saying no thanks. But, so I have 3 schools on here. LA Tech, which is the one that I talked about, Louisiana Tech. I have Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee, because those are the other 2 that come up. Western Kentucky seems to come up a lot. When I put some things out about LA Tech, everybody jumped on, well, what about Western Kentucky? And if anybody watched our draft, I was pretty big into Western Kentucky because I drafted Western Kentucky.
So let me just so we're clear for the people watching at home, they call it La Tech, not LA Tech. Just so we're clear.
La Tech.
La Tech.
A la bibliothèque.
No, La Tech.
A la bibliothèque. Okay, La Tech.
La Tech.
How about I call them Louisiana Tech?
Okay.
La Tech. I guess I should have done my homework.
I didn't want to steal your role. I just wanted to make sure.
I appreciate it. A la bibliothèque. You know what that was from? That was from the Billy Madison. Okay, never mind.
Biblioteca.
La bibliothèque. And they, okay. Anyway, we want to hear from you guys. We got 43. We're clearly, JY's beer is getting low. It is getting past an hour, and we're about done. But want to hear from you guys on who you believe will replace Texas State. Again, La Tech.
La Tech.
La Tech.
Yeah.
Western Kentucky.
Yeah.
Middle Tennessee.
Well, that's stretching out a little bit.
Okay. Let us, or no one. Or they're just like, screw it. We're not going to backfill. We don't care. All right, so I'm having too much fun. I guess get serious. But, so seriously, apparently, and I said this earlier, that like the Sun Belt is actively searching for a backfill. Well, sense. Why would they be doing that, Steve?
Connect the dots.
That's about as kindergarten as you can get.
So I want to ask you,
unless it's a bunch of BS, which I find extremely hard.
So
to
Texas State seems obvious, and you've said for a while you thought they were locked in pretty much, and if they don't end up there, it's because something fell apart, the deal, whatever. I want to know your thoughts. UTSA. I keep seeing them mentioned by people as a possible, both of them. Mm-hmm. And just, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's a wish? Because I think, in my opinion, when we hear Memphis, I think that's just wishful thinking. I don't think it's going to happen. But how would you categorize?
Well, I have UTSA. I have Memphis in my power rankings. Yes. I have Memphis in the unlikely.
Right.
And I have the UTSA in the possible.
Okay.
Along with North Texas.
All right, so they're...
And along with New Mexico State.
Okay.
So they're more likely than Memphis or Tulane or UNLV or UConn. But they're also not in the Texas State category of all but done. So I do think they're closer to a potential add for the PAC. I don't think it happens for 2026.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I'll give you a hypothetical. Put you on the spot a little bit.
Yes.
Because you've been clear on Texas State. So let's say it is 2 schools they're announcing, and they're holding it, whatever.
Go ahead.
So if Texas State is one, assuming they're one, do you think that UTSA would be the most likely next school, or would there be other ones that would be the most likely?
For 2026?
Well, just
if they
whatever their announcement is, whether they could join in 27 or not. But if they
that's very different. That's 2 different questions.
Well,
if it's for they want 9 members in 2026.
Okay.
I think the 9th football member, don't burn me at the stake, but I think the 9th football member is New Mexico State University.
Wow.
And it's just a body. That's
Gotcha.
all it is.
Gotcha.
They want 9, and they're going to get 9 on the cheap. Sorry, Aggie fans. I get people that hate me on X, but they get them on the cheap. If they're willing to wait a year, we'll do 8 for 26 and add a 9th or 10th in 27.
Yeah.
Totally different story.
Yeah.
New Mexico State is completely not who they would add, and they will likely add one of the AAC schools. So, yes, I gave you 2 answers because I think it's two different sits.
Yeah. I think what I was trying to ask you was more with the second situation where, let's say they announce them at the same time, but Texas State is joining in 26.
Different. Yes, okay.
And let's say UTSA or whatever the other school would be 27.
I still like UNT. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I like North Texas better than UTSA.
Okay.
If it was me picking a school for the PAC, I would take Texas State and I would take North Texas.
Interesting.
I would not take UTSA.
Okay.
That's just JY speculating. So the only other thing I want to mention was CUSA. Yes, Thamel in his long rant, well, not rant, but his long report of things, Tarleton, at the very end, Tarleton State came up and he was tying them to Conference USA. Where I sit here today, my heart wants Tarleton State in the Mountain West. What is more likely is Conference USA. I hate to say that. I don't think the Mountain West is moving fast enough. I think whenever Tarleton gets an invite, they're probably going to go to whomever gives them the invite first.
Yeah.
And I think where we sit here today is Conference USA.
Yeah. And I would be disappointed.
I would be too. It hurts me to say that because I want them to go to the Mountain West.
Yeah.
I think if Tarleton got an invite these next 2 weeks, I think they would take it.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things. Like if you say no, when do you get another one?
Yeah.
Like you would think they. I mean, they're growing, they're investing, everything's there.
You got to. If you're them, you got
to take it.
Unless
right?
the Mountain West,
you don't want to be Sac State for crying out loud, right?
Like unless the Mountain West is telling you, hey, we want to add you, but we have to do some other steps. You know.
Right.
Then yeah, you got to take it if they're.
All right, well, let's close our poll. We got over 50 votes. Fantastic. Let's see who our dwellers say is going to be. Oh, a whopping 54% is LA Tech. That is hefty. I really wasn't expecting that, Steve. And no one is in second place. I'm really surprised by this.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
Western Kentucky only at 13%. Very, very interesting. I thought it would be a lot closer, honestly. So let's go back up and just check some dweller comments, Steve, and then we're going to wrap this sucker up. Let's see if we have any comments about our Giggle Fest that I got into. Go ahead.
Wouldn't it be interesting if what you said and New Mexico State ends up in the PAC, and New Mexico being in the Mountain West? It would just be very interesting. I guess add more fuel to that fire.
Please don't get me wrong. I don't think it's likely that they're going to do that.
But if they were desperate,
but if they wanted to have a 9th member in 2026, I think New Mexico State is who they would have to go with.
Yeah.
And again, when I say that, New Mexico State fans are going to be upset because I'm making them sound so much lower than everybody else, and I don't mean that. But the PAC didn't rebuild. I mean, here's the straight up honest truth. They didn't rebuild to take New Mexico State.
No.
They didn't.
Yeah.
All PAC fans would tell you that.
Yeah, they thought they had a real shot at schools like Memphis and
Absolutely.
Tulane and all those, and maybe they still think they have a shot at those schools.
So Kevin says Feinbaugh's comments were just unnecessary. Well, he that's what he does.
Feinbaum is unnecessary. I mean,
he creates buzz, and we're talking about it. So that's gets him off, I guess. But. Gets him off, I guess. But, let's see. 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 If you see something, shout it out.
It was Chase. He's been a Beaver fan a long time. He's tired of the wait too. Like people are just tired of it.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, for Beaver and Cougar fans, I mean, they've been in this mess, this waiting game, this unknown, this. I mean, holy cow! It's of course your Mountain West 5. This is new to them. Yeah. They've only been doing it for 6 months, and quite frankly, to them, it's not even a big deal because they know they're going to be in the PAC. The Beavs and the Coug fans have been living with unknown reality for a really long time.
Yeah, and the thing, and it's right there at their like just add Texas State.
Just get it done. Just give them something.
And
yes,
they can move forward with an exciting package.
I know. Scott, could the PAC be preparing to add 2? Yes, 100%. I think that could be part of it. I think, as I said, again, speculation, but mediation could be a reason why we're still not hearing anything. And honestly, I want to say this, and I said this on the radio, the Cheyenne radio station. This is why I said a month ago that the short-term timeline for mediation is held with the Mountain West. They don't have to add an 8th member.
Right.
They don't have to get a long-term media partner. They already have them. They know, I guarantee you, they know who their media partners are going to be. They don't maybe have a deal yet, but they know pretty darn well where they're headed. The PAC, I think they do, but we don't know if they do. And that's why through June here, the timeline, and we're kind of seeing it right now. Like if people are saying, oh, it's the mediation, well, guess what? The Mountain West is going to hold it up for another week because they have no reason to settle. There's nothing pushing them to settle right now.
Right.
So, yeah, and potentially, Scott, that gets me to the other point, Scott, maybe one of them is that, they want to announce a tandem ad. And yes, while we think that Texas State is in the bag, if the other school's not, and they want to do one announcement for a, boom, here's the double ad to get our 8th and 9th, absolutely, that pure speculation, but that could be holding it up as well. So why would the SBC reach out to an American school, the stable? It's a good question. People have asked me that today. Why not?
Why not?
Give it a shot. Yeah. I mean, is it a long shot? Sure, it's a long shot, but
it's like the nerdy guy in school. Why not ask out the hottest girl in school? I mean,
there might be something there. Yeah. You don't know. I mean, I understand the question, but I also understand why the Sun Belt would try and do that. I mean, they will have all conferences in this day and age of realignment are prepared to lose members, and they know who their targets are. You saw that with the Mountain West.
Yeah.
That's how quick they added UTEP. Yeah. They knew UTEP was at the top or near the top of their list.
And with the Sun Belt wanting to get out of Texas, they could be trying to sell, hey, we're regional, more southeast part of the country conference.
Yeah. I'll just hit a couple more here if we see any. Sorry for missing any of yours. We're just kind of, Immaculate's here. Question is this. If it's Texas State, what is the holdup? They could have announced this much sooner. There's nothing. Yes. Agree, Immaculate. We're speculating on maybe mediation. Maybe they want to do it as a package deal in terms of either additions together or, the package of media with additions. They just want to do one big announcement. That's a great question. Nobody knows the answer to that.
We got your buddy there, Mr. Collegiate Athletics Advocate.
Oh, good to have you.
He's
Collegiate. Yeah, I talked to him the other day. It was a good conversation with him. We had a little convo. And Love Muscle's in the house. Is he saying anything inappropriate?
He's off the reservation again.
Okay.
Come on.
I'm so glad you're here. I mean, maybe others aren't, but I laugh. That's a good thing.
Ryan.
Sorry.
Ryan there, he says about adding, someone else mentioned trying to get the double dip in Texas, which I think strategically makes a lot of sense.
It does, I agree.
And Ryan there says about getting, if they could get Texas State, I think he said UTSA together as kind of like natural rivals.
Sure,
a great double dip in Texas, which, would be great. I mean, and honestly, if a week from now they announce those are the two schools, they're one's coming in 26, one 27, then great.
Yeah.
Good job. But if this keeps just dragging on and dragging on and dragging on, and it almost gets to the point then if it's just Texas State, like people will be disappointed. Like, why didn't you, if that was who it was going to be, why didn't you add them?
So, Hugo, two things I want to end up with here. I want to talk about St. Mary's, and I want to talk about GCU.
Okay.
St. Mary, Hugo asks, do you still think St. Mary's College will be added to the PAC? My kids go there. Hate to say it. I don't think they will be able to add much to the conference. So, the last time I had heard about St. Mary's was a few months ago, and it was they were very much in conversations with the PAC. I have not heard anything since then on St. Mary's. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. As we've been talking about, we haven't really heard anything from the PAC. So I don't know about St. Mary's. It's funny. We've said this before. Like because on my chart, I have St. Mary's and Texas State as, all but done. And it is like pretty much every person that comments on that, they like one and they don't like the other. They either like, and I don't know if it's because they're basketball fans versus football fans. I don't know what it is, but it's like, I like the St. Mary's ad. I don't like the Texas State ad. I like the Texas State ad. I don't like the St. Like, it is almost one or the other for every commenter on that.
Can I offer a thought on St. Mary's?
Yes.
So here's the thing. We've talked about this. The football revenue, right? There's only a certain amount of money you're going to bring in.
Yeah.
We kind of know what we have a good idea, and you've been on this for a while, of the market for both the Mountain West and the PAC.
Yep.
There's only so much money you're going to bring in.
Yep.
So what is additional streams of revenue? Basketball.
Right.
Obviously, St. Mary's would be a great addition to any Western Conference as far as just basketball and the way they do the shares and all that stuff, getting into the tournament, if you can win some games, like that is and I think we're seeing more and more conferences looking at that. Like, okay, we're basically capping out our football revenue. Can we max out? Can we bring somebody else in to increase our basketball revenue? So
I lied. There's a couple more questions I'm going to hit. So somebody asked about Utah Tech and Southern Utah. There was a new article today from a friend of the show, Casey Smurthwaite, Hero Sports. You can check it out if you didn't already. He mentions what's going on with the WAC. He talks about Utah Tech, Southern Utah. Sorry. He actually said that. So the WAC right now is going to be at 5 members. The speculation is that potentially the 3 Texas schools may join the ASUN. Remember, the ASUN football teams play with the WAC football teams in the United. So the football programs would stay the same. It's the Olympic sports going on. So that kind of makes sense. But then that leaves Utah Tech and Southern Utah, the 2 final members, kind of out. The Summit's been kind of brought out. I've seen the Summit be brought up. So I don't have a good answer for you. I would say go check out what KC has to say. KC's all over that stuff. And he doesn't have answers, but he kind of fills in some of the gaps. So I would check that out. Somebody asks about... Oh, go ahead.
Have you seen the ending to Old Yeller?
Yes. Why are you bringing that up?
I think the WAC, it might be time. It might be time.
I said the death nail may be out, and it's just... They're waiting for the hammer to swing.
Yeah.
That is the saddest ending to a movie. There was something about the Mountain West I thought there was one more here. Which school will be added to the Mountain West next? Yeah, that's a great question. I really take a hold of Commissioner Navarre's comment. We're on a pause. Mm-hmm. Today the Big West came out and said, basically, we're done. We're happy with 12.
Yeah.
The Mountain West hasn't said that. The Mountain West has said,
Paused.
We're on a pause.
Yeah.
It's the second time they've said it.
Right.
So I firmly believe the Mountain West is not done. I still have North Dakota State football only and Tarleton State as my top 2 most likely ads for the Mountain West. I'm not saying it's going to get done, but if they're going to do something, and I think the pause is waiting for the governance.
Yeah.
They wanted a settlement, which we now have. Now they want governance, and then I think we'll see if they're going to go FCS. Yeah. I would not put it out of the realm of possibility. I actually would put it as the most likely that they're going to pull an FCS.
And how many football playing members does the Mountain West have as far as who's agreed to play, including
9 right now.
So 12 is like a nice round number for
Yeah.
a conference. So like I'm just thinking, if they did go the FCS route, imagine you go up and you get let's say you get a North Dakota State and
Right.
South Dakota State, and then a Tarleton.
Now you're getting jiggy with it.
That could be a really fun football conference.
I hear you. So the last thing I wanted to bring up, thank you guys for everything you've done tonight. Thanks for that super chat from earlier. Shout out to the Hoosier shirt that you're wearing. GCU, I have people kind of asking me about GCU. I do believe, and I've kind of reached out to some people to see what's going on, because I really thought after the schools delivered their notice that they no longer have voting rights. Again, they're in that interim period. They really don't control the conference anymore at all. Like, they're out.
Right.
I thought that would allow the Mountain West to move forward with solidifying and announcing GCU. Well, that was almost 3 weeks ago. We haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
I have heard today that the mediation, yet again, that seems to be the sticky point on all of this. And we just don't know. Again, this is speculation. Anytime somebody brings up the mediation, total speculation, because nobody knows anything about what's going on. Their non-disclosures are damn tight, and nobody knows what's happening. And it's the way it should be. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. But I have heard that, at least maybe from the GCU side, that there's probably nothing going to happen past settlement because, not surprisingly, the schools that are leaving aren't interested in adding another basketball team.
Yep.
And I'm going, but they don't got to vote anymore. But still, they're in mediation over an exit fee. So if they don't like it, they don't want to, you don't want, exactly. Yeah. So I think that may be what's going on. I'm still very high on the fact that it's going to happen. But I'll tell you what, who knows? We don't know.
There's two things that you've brought up many times that Commissioner Navarez has said. And I think if you combine those two things, it tells you a lot about their approach.
Yeah.
One, you said how she wanted a global resolution.
Yes.
So it's obvious she wants to get all of this tied up. All of this litigation, mediation, lawsuits, all that stuff tied up. And she also said a pause. You brought that up.
Yes.
So if you look at those and you kind of look at both of those in context together, okay, we want to tie up all this BS, and right now we're on a pause until then.
Yes.
It doesn't mean we're not adding people. We're just going to maybe wait until we get this other stuff. It makes sense.
Yeah.
And when you look at it in those two in context together.
Yep, for sure. Hey, appreciate it. Philip, he says loves, where is it at? Well, he loves the name Love Muscle, but that's not what I was going to say. He says, you guys are awesome. Love the live shows. We love them too. We love all the comments. Sorry we couldn't get to them all tonight. Love that we're over 100 live viewers, watchers, dwellers again tonight. I think that's 3 or 4 weeks in a row. It's fantastic. I think you can tell we're gearing up for football season. There's a lot going on. People are interested to know what's going on with the PAC. Somebody asked me, when are you going to put out another Texas State video? I said, I will not be putting out another Texas State video until there's an announcement on Texas State. So we'll talk about them on the live show, but I'm done putting out standalone vids on them until hopefully it's final.
We did that recent episode. I hope everybody watched it. With the AD from Tarleton State.
Yes, just today it released. AD Urias.
Yes, watch that video. Very interesting. And really, again, a different approach between Tarleton and Sac State. It's very interesting. They're different approaches.
And please, if you didn't watch our show with Amanda Kristovich.
Oh, yeah.
That came out on yesterday, Tuesday. You may be, they're talking about governance, and they're talking about... I think it's very interesting, very easy to listen to. We have a great conversation with her, and I would really recommend everybody to go back and listen to that. Even if you're not totally interested in the congressional stuff, I think it's a really good listen, and she was fantastic. So again, shout out to Amanda.
And she had just spent the week down in Orlando.
That's right.
Hanging out with all the ADs and their staffers, even maybe in the bar with them, which sometimes that's where you get some good juicy details.
We talk about the NACDA convention. She talks about kind of the vibe of the NACDA convention. That's towards the beginning of that. So if you're interested, please make sure you check that out. It was a fantastic episode. So, hey, with that, we thank you guys so much again. We'll love these live episodes. We love interacting with the dwellers. Smash the like button if you feel so inclined, and we'll see you next time on the big mountain.